Next on BGSU Brain Game, it is Celina versus Heritage Christian. This could be a colossal clash of the craniums. Only one way to find out. BGSU's Brain Game starts right now. And welcome to BGSU Brain Game, Celina versus Heritage Christian. Let's meet our teams. Going to start off with Celina. Tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Gage. I am a sophomore. To my left is Avery. She is a senior. And to my right is Andrew, and he is also a senior.
And you are coached by?
Hal Hoover.
All right, welcome to Celina. Heritage Christian, tell us who you are.
I am Isaac. I'm a senior. On my left is Kenneth. He's a senior. On my right is Andrew. He's a sophomore, and we are coached by Laura Lindmole.
All right, welcome to both of our teams. We start things off with our toss-up round. In this round, all questions are worth 10 points. No deduction for an incorrect answer, so you can play a little bit looser on your buzzers. You may confer before buzzing in, not after. And you can steal a question. I repeat, you can steal a question in this round. Heritage Christian, Celina, are you ready? Toss-up round starts right now. Often performed during the Christmas season, this oratorio contains the moving Celina. Andrew.
The Messiah.
The Messiah, yes. After having witnessed the Cleveland Massacre at the age of 14 and seeing the effects of the 1872 oil wars on her father and other small businessmen, this journalist took it upon herself to investigate and expose the practices of oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller. Who was she? That would be Celina. Gage.
Adams.
Incorrect. Heritage Christian, would you like to steal? There you're saying no, and time. Ida Tarbell is what we needed there. Following Napoleon Bonaparte's great victory at Austerlitz, what nickname was given to the conflict that includes the phrase, the Battle of the Three Blank? Celina. Gage.
Kingdoms.
Incorrect. Heritage Christian, would you like to steal? That would be Isaac.
Armies.
Incorrect. Emperors is what we needed there. During Hurricane Matthew of 2016, highest sustained winds were clocked at 110 miles per hour. Identify the scale used to classify the winds of a hurricane that ranges from 1 to 5. That would be the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. In the Roman Catholic Church, these clergymen serve as counselors to the Pope. Identify the title given to them. That would be Heritage Christian. Isaac.
Cardinals.
Cardinals, yes. In 1804, near Fort Mandan, North Dakota, which wife of Toussaint Charbonneau met the core of discovery and then helped? That would be Celina. Gage.
Sacagawea.
That was Sacagawea, yes. Identify the collective noun that designates both newspapers and magazines which are published at regular intervals, such as daily. Heritage Christian. Kenneth.
Periodicals.
Periodicals, yes. When World War I began with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne in 1914 Sarajevo, which member of the Black Hand? That would be Celina. Gage.
Gavrilo Princip.
Correct. Which amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishment? That would be Celina. Avery.
The 8th.
That is the 8th, yes. Which Gothic cathedral commissioned in 1159 by the Bishop of Paris? That would be Celina. Gage.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yes. This American poet wrote and fictionalized account of her struggle with depression. That would be Heritage Christian. Isaac.
Emily Dickinson.
Incorrect. Called The Bell Jar, which was published shortly before her death by suicide. Celina, would you like to steal? That would be Avery.
Sylvia Plath.
Correct. Under this U.S. president's leadership, polygamy was declared illegal by the Edmunds Act. Identify this man who succeeded James Garfield in office in 1881. Celina, Gage.
Harrison.
Incorrect. Heritage Christian, would you like to steal? That would be Isaac.
Grover Cleveland.
Incorrect. Chester Arthur is what we needed there. This is the scientific term for the emission of light by a living organism. Celina, Gage.
Bioluminescent.
Correct. She did not say, let them eat cake. Celina, Gage.
Marie Antoinette.
That is correct, Marie Antoinette. Her brother-in-law sent her poems to a publisher in England without her knowledge. The title of the resulting anthology was The 10th Muse, lately sprung up in America. Who was its author? That was Anne Bradstreet. Identify the Secretary of State with the initials J.H., who enunciated the open door policy in the early 20th century to promote equality. That is end of round. That was John Hayes, what we were looking for there. Let's take a look at our score. We have Heritage Christian at 20 points, and currently in the lead is Celina with 80. Stick around. Our head-to-head round is coming up next. And welcome back to BGSU Brain Game. Heritage Christian at 20 points, Celina at 80 points. Heritage Christian, looks like you've shuffled the deck of your lineup. Tell us who's joined your team.
Sam Schaeferly, he's a junior.
All right, welcome to you. Celina, sticking with your lineup from the last round. This is our head-to-head round. There are 15 questions in this round. Both teams get the same 15 questions. One team will stay in studio, the other will go to isolation. They may confer as long as they want to, but and they may also pass on a question. It's 10 points apiece, no deduction for an incorrect answer, so you can still feel relaxed. Once our in-studio team finishes all 15 questions or time runs out, they will swap. Our other team will come in, have a shot at those same 15 questions. We'll then clear our score at the end of that round, and we'll see where our teams stand. All right, Celina, you're at 80 points, meaning you will stick around. Heritage Christian, that means you are off to isolation. All right, Celina, are you ready for your 15 head-to-head questions? All right, this round for you starts right now. What is the capital of South Dakota?
Sioux Falls.
Pier. Which colligative property of a solution is defined as the amount of pressure that must be applied to prevent water from diffusing into it?
Diffusion.
Osmotic pressure. In talking about a financial situation, what does in the black mean?
Getting money.
Will we accept that? We will accept that, yes. Who played the two leading roles in the film The African Queen?
Adams.
Incorrect. Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. Which scientist was the first to show the relationship among voltage, current, and resistance?
Faraday.
Incorrect. Ohm. The short story The Yellow Wallpaper was penned by what writer and social reformist whose initials are CPG?
Gooding.
Incorrect. Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Name the two female justices President Obama named to the Supreme Court.
Ginsburg and Adams.
Incorrect. Elaine Kagan and Sandra Sotomayor. This document limiting the power of the English monarchy was signed in 1215.
Magna Carta.
Correct. What common chemical is called the universal solvent?
Hydrochloric acid.
Incorrect. Water. What do we call a fracture in which part of the broken bone protrudes through the skin?
Broken leg.
Compound. What are the three most common elements in the human body?
Carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen.
Incorrect. Oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. This tree or shrub is grown in a pot and trimmed in order to remain small. What is this Japanese art form called?
Bonsai.
Correct. These false feet found in amoebas are used in movement, and that's the end of the round for Celina. That means it is now time for you to head to isolation. All right, let's bring back in Heritage Christian. Heritage Christian, are you ready for your 15 head-to-head questions? Well, they start right now. What is the capital of South Dakota?
Pierre.
Correct. Which colligative property of a solution is defined as the amount of pressure that must be applied to prevent water from diffusing into it?
Pass.
Osmotic. In talking about a financial situation, what does in the black mean?
In debt.
Incorrect. Making a profit. Who played the two leading roles in the film The African Queen?
Pass.
Bogart and Hepburn. Which scientist was the first to show the relationship among voltage, current, and resistance?
Tesla.
Incorrect. George S. Ohm. The short story The Yellow Wallpaper was penned by what writer and social reformist with the initials CPG?
Pass.
That will be Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Name the two female justices President Obama named to the Supreme Court.
Sandra Day O'Connor and Nancy Pelosi.
Incorrect. Elena Kagan and Sandra Sotomayor. This document limiting the power of the English monarchy was signed in 1215 by King John I of England.
Magna Carta.
Correct. What common chemical is called the universal solvent?
Salt.
Incorrect. Water. What do we call a fracture in which part of the broken bone protrudes through the skin?
Splint.
Incorrect. Compound. What are the three most common elements in the human body?
Oxygen, water, and iron.
Incorrect. Oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. This tree or shrub is grown in a pot and trimmed in order to remain small. What is this Japanese art form called?
Bonsai.
Correct. End of time for Heritage Christian. It is now time to clear our score. Let's bring back in Celina and let's see where our teams stand. All right, let's see where our teams stand. Heritage Christian has 50 points and Celina has 110 points. You're going to want to stick around next because our category round is coming up where questions are worth 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 points. But deductions start. Stay tuned. And welcome back to BGSU Brain Game. We have Heritage Christian with 50 points and Celina currently in the lead with 110 points. As we move to our category round, there are 6 categories in this round, and they are questions between 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 points. But I must warn both of our teams, deductions start now. So if you go for 20, you are risking 20 points. You may confer before buzzing in, and you can steal a question in this round. Heritage Christian, since you are at 50 points, you get to make the first selection.
Let's go with world capitals for 15.
World capitals for 15 points. I'll name the capital. You give me the country. Tegucigalpa. Celina. Avery.
Honduras.
Correct. Celina in control.
Roaring 20s for 30.
Roaring 20s for 30 points. Answer these questions related to the Roaring 20s. One of the most popular hangouts in New York City during the 1920s was in Harlem, and patrons flocked to this club where they could hear Dixieland, blues, and jazz. Name this popular destination. It was known as the Cotton Club. Celina in control.
Let's do the Roaring 20s for 10.
Roaring 20s, this time for 10 points. What nickname was given to forward-thinking women in the 1920s who wore short? That would be Heritage Christian. Isaac.
Flappers.
Flappers, yes. Heritage Christian takes back control.
Let's go with math terms for 10.
Math terms for 10. The answer to each of these math questions will begin with the letter C. What term means that two figures are exactly equal in size? Celina, Gage.
Congruent.
Congruent, yes. And Celina takes back control.
World capitals for 20.
World capitals for 20 points. Helsinki. Celina, Avery.
Finland.
Correct. Celina maintains control.
Let's do science with PH for 10.
Science with PH for 10 points. Identify these science terms that begin with the letters PH. What do we call the mucus produced by the respiratory system? Heritage Christian, Sam.
Phlegm.
Phlegm, yes. Heritage Christian takes back control.
Math terms for 15.
Math terms for 15 points. In what type of polygon are all the faces square? Heritage Christian, Kenneth.
Congruent.
Incorrect. Celina, would you like to steal? That would be Avery.
Cube.
Cube is what we needed there. Yes, Celina back in control.
World capitals for 10.
World capitals for 10 points. Vienna. That would be Heritage Christian. Isaac.
Austria.
Correct. Heritage Christian back in control.
Let's go with grammar terms for 20.
Grammar terms for 20 points. What is the noun called that receives the action of a verb in a sentence? That would be Heritage Christian. Kenneth.
Direct object.
Correct. Heritage Christian is still in the driver's seat.
Let's go with grammar terms for 15.
Grammar terms for 15 points. What type of punctuation mark is used to show possession? Heritage Christian, Kenneth.
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe, yes. Heritage Christian in control, making a move.
Grammar terms for 25.
Grammar terms for 25 points. What are the letters called that are added to the beginning of a word to change its? That would be Celina, Avery.
Prefix.
Prefix, Celina back in control.
Music for 20.
Music for 20 points. Musician and instrument, to be exact. I will read you the name of a musician. You reply with the instrument he or she plays. Eric Clapton. That would be a guitar. Celina in control.
The Roaring 20s for 15.
Roaring 20s for 15. Some of the most famous gangsters of the Roaring 20s had nicknames like Scarface, Lucky, Legs, and Bugs. What was Scarface's? That would be Celina, Gage.
Al Capone.
That was indeed Al Capone. Celina's still in control.
Grammar terms for 10.
Grammar terms for 10 points. What type of punctuation mark is used at the end of an interrogative? That would be Heritage Christian. Isaac.
Question mark.
Correct. Heritage Christian in control.
Let's go grammar terms for 30.
Grammar terms for 30 points. What part of speech connects words or groups of words? That would be Celina. Avery.
Conjunction.
Conjunction, yes. Celina in control.
Musician and instrument for 10.
Musician and instrument for 10 points. Liberace. Known for playing the piano. Celina in control.
Musician and instrument for 15.
Musician and instrument for 15 points. Yo-Yo Ma. That will be Celina. Avery.
Cello.
The cello, yes. Celina still in control.
Science with PH for 15.
Science with PH for 15. What do we call the bones in the hands and feet? That would be Celina. Andrew.
Phalanges.
Phalanges, yes. Celina maintains control.
Musician and instrument for 25.
Musician and instrument now for 25 points. Isaac Perlman. Celina. Andrew.
Violin.
Violin, yes. Celina in control.
Roaring 20s for 20.
The Roaring Twenties for 20. Who was U.S. president when the Roaring Twenties began? That would be Woodrow Wilson. Celina, in control.
Science with PH for 20.
Science with PH for 20 points. Name the branch of science that studies matter and energy. Celina. Avery.
Physics.
Physics, yes. Celina, in control.
CMath terms for 20.
CMath terms for 20 points. This term refers to the pair of numbers used to give the location of a point. That would be Celina. Andrew.
Coordinates.
Coordinates, yes. Celina, in control.
Musician and instrument for 30.
Musician, instrument for 30. Finishing off this category, Gary Burton. Time, known for playing the vibraphones. Celina, still in control.
World capitals for 25.
World capitals for 25 points. Sophia. That is the capital of Bulgaria. Celina, still in control.
Roaring 20s for 25.
The Roaring Twenties for 25. A popular dance in the 1920s was the blank hop. That would be the Lindy Hop. Celina, still in control.
Science with PH for 25.
Science with PH for 25 points. End of round. Let's take a look at our score. We have Heritage Christian with 110 points, and currently in the lead with 335 points is Celina. But you're going to want to stay tuned because our brainstorm round, things can change very, very quickly because questions are worth 20 points apiece, but negative 20 points for an incorrect answer. Stay tuned. And welcome back to BGSU Brain Game. Heritage Christian with 110 points. Celina with 335 points. Both teams have elected to stay with their lineup from the last round as we enter the brainstorm round. In this round, all questions are worth 20 points. Negative 20 points for an incorrect answer. You may confer before buzzing in, but there is no stealing. I repeat, no stealing in this round. Heritage Christian, Celina, are you ready? All right, this brainstorm round starts right now. Albert Einstein's general relativity theory describes this force of attraction between objects with mass. What is this force? That would be Heritage Christian. Kenneth.
Gravity.
Correct. In land area, this country is the second largest. Celina. Gage.
Canada.
Incorrect. China. The radius and ulna are bones in what part of the human body? That would be Celina. Avery.
Wrist.
Will we accept wrist? We will not. We needed arms specifically there. Millard Fillmore was the last member of this party to attain, that would be Celina. Gage.
The Whigs.
Correct. Which state claims the nickname the Land of Enchantment? That would be New Mexico. Which U.S. state shares the longest border with Canada? That would be Heritage Christian. Kenneth.
Montana.
Incorrect. Alaska is what we needed there. Name the verb tense in the following sentence. I have been ignoring her all week long. Heritage Christian. Sam.
Past progressive.
Incorrect. Present perfect progressive. Who is considered the first writer of detective stories with the creation? That would be Heritage Christian. Isaac.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Incorrect. Poe. In the eye, what is the dark hole in the middle of the iris called? Celina. Avery.
Pupil.
That is indeed the pupil. Who followed Ronald Reagan as President of the United? That would be Celina. Gage.
George H.W. Bush.
Correct. Which amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits double jeopardy? Celina. Gage.
Fifth Amendment.
That is indeed the fifth. Vonnegut's novel Slaughterhouse-Five centers on Billy Pilgrim's survival of what World War II atrocity? Celina. Gage.
The Holocaust.
Incorrect. The firebombing of Dresden. How many named constellations are there? Heritage Christian. Kenneth.
88.
Correct. June 20th, 1969 is a very important date in history. What happened? Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Identify the noun clause in the following sentence. Nancy quickly realized that she had made a huge mistake. Heritage Christian, Kenneth.
That she had made a huge mistake.
Correct. What is the name of the silk spinning organ used by spiders to create webs and trap insects for food? That would be spinnerets. What end of round? Let's take a look at our score. Heritage Christian at 110 points. And our winner with 335 points is Celina. Let's give both these teams a big round of applause. In the spirit of good sportsmanship, let's come around, meet in the middle, shake hands, and we will see you at the next BGS.